Remember the Fallen while we dive into this week's
Initial Codes. Part 1. Initial Codes. Part 1. Initial Codes.
Hey all my connoisseurs of fine Trek, this is my review of the 4th episode of Strange New Worlds, Memento Mori. Roughly translated, it means remember you have to die, which seems to be the antithesis of Pike's logic in this episode, where because he knows he can't die till after he ends up in the beep chair, he's willing to cheat death on the regular now. Only I hope this episode is a wake-up call for him that just because he can't die doesn't mean he should regularly test that assumption on behalf of the rest of the crew. We're introduced to the idea of Remembrance Day, where Starfleet officers wear pins of former ships they were posted to that suffered casualties. The amount of motion blur in this show makes it nearly impossible to try and read everybody's. The only one I could make out was Una wearing one for the USS Antares. The Enterprise is bringing an atmospheric processor upgrade to a colony on Phoenibus 3, when they find blood everywhere and the colony devoid of life. One of the quickest away missions in Trek history is cut short when the Enterprise is attacked by the Gorn while trying to rescue colony survivors. It was all just set up to lure them in. I didn't sin it the first time the series did a more than 10-minute intro, but I will give it a dislike today. I do have a like for Uhura and Hemmer getting trapped in the cargo bay after the first attack. Hemmer's hand is crushed and he must instruct Uhura on fixing the coolant system. This was some really nice character development for both, and good team building. With Una injured and La'an being the only living human to ever see a Gorn, she's acting first officer, and the episode is centered around her. She keeps seeing the figment of a boy that it turns out she hid with while being hunted by the Gorn as a child. While it's a cool scene and nice backstory for La'an, I have a dislike for how this dude wrote a research paper under pressure about the Gorn language. I find it really hard to believe that he figured this out on his own and wrote it down. Pike decides that the best thing they can do is hide. The stellar gases of a brown dwarf being swallowed by a black hole make a pretty good hiding spot, albeit a dangerous one. As the pressures start to crush the ship, Transporter Chief Kyle has to watch an injured crew member die as he makes it through a bulkhead just in time. This goes back to Pike cheating death, but the Reaper will certainly get his due if Chris keeps playing these high-stakes games of roulette. I have a like for one of his famous morale-boosting speeches when he says to La'an, "Get a crew to believe in miracles and they just might give you one." From the human Starfleet officer that we've seen portrayed as having the most faith in higher powers, it's pretty perfect for Star Trek. The episode then becomes a bit of a callback to the submarine drama from Balance of Terror, and there's even unnecessary sea jargon. It does pay off when the Gorn ship is crushed before Enterprise, only to find out it was just a scout of a larger fleet of ships. And here's another dislike. Why does the Gorn ship look like a turd where someone's been eating gold leaf? I think it's supposed to represent a snake, but this is honestly the worst ship design we may have ever seen. Spock and La'an go on a scouting mission in the good old shuttlecraft Galileo, which brings us to another analog from TOS's first season classic, the Galileo 7. The plot of which is also about the morality of life and death and honoring the fallen, even through seemingly hopeless situations. During this shuttle excursion, Spock, for maybe the first time ever on screen, is reluctant to mind meld with La'an, thinking she may just be looking for a mental health easy button to ease her mind. The dude that has proven he'll literally mind meld with anything, being apprehensive to help get information that might save them from imminent doom, is kind of a head scratcher. And since I've already disliked what he finds in her head, we'll leave it at that. I've got one more dislike, and I'm not sure if it's for Pike's silly question about what a snake, duck, and possum have in common, or that someone has an immediate answer for it. It's like if I said, "I'd wipe the bear's ass while the Pope shits in the woods to keep the turtle shiny." Pike, I gave you a like for some great words in this one, and you had to go and ruin it. I do have a like for the episode wrapping up as it began, with La'an recording a security log. She wasn't into remembering those that died at the beginning, but by the end she finally puts on her USS Puget Sound pin and honors the memory of her friends and family. While for me this is the worst episode so far this season, I in no way think it's a bad episode of Star Trek. It's a solid, middle-of-the-road entry to the franchise, and if this is the worst episode of Strange New Worlds this season, this show is going to be a masterpiece. If you're thirsty for more Trek, go check out my video ranking the best and worst 5 time travel plots in the franchise. Till next week, keep your pattern buffers in sync, and I've been your host, Dustin Wing.